Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morgan, Rockwater City Madmouth, and I want to welcome Mel Farr JR back to the broadcast. Long time no talk. Not, Mel. We had a great broadcast last night with Steve Ballesteri, didn't we?
Yes, we did. How's it going, Scott and Rick?
All right,
hey, what's up?
On my Thursday dynamic duo here. So, you know what? We're going to change the theme a little bit tonight. Instead of talking about the pros, we're going back to college tonight, today. And what I want to talk about first is only game I want to talk about last week was the fact that Clemson escaped Boston College 34-28. And I'll tell you what, Trevor Lawrence, to me, is obviously out with COVID-19. And I was never rooted as hard for a team as I did with Boston College. I think the Clemson Tigers have been taking COVID-19 lightly, how they've talked about being we'll be in the Final Four, we'll win another championship, and all of a sudden the COVID-19 bug hit them, and it bit them good. So I'll let you two decide who you want to start off.
I can go. Since I live in North Carolina and I'm not too far from Clemson, I have a lot of friends who are Clemson fans, and yeah, I mean, I think Trevor Lawrence kind of showed people why he's to me the Heisman Trophy winner. You know, I mean, that was an ugly win as you can get. And they've really been hit hard by COVID. And, South Carolina's got COVID surging just like every other state out there. So a lot of these kids, I don't know if they're partying too much or not wearing their mask or just not taking it seriously or just tired of it. Who knows? But that was an ugly win from Clemson. But, they did escape. And to me, they're going to be in the championship. I just see that happening. And I do see Trevor Lawrence winning the MVP, winning the Heisman, and being the number one pick. If it's not going to be this draft, it will be the next year's draft if whatever he wants to do. So, ugly win, but that's what happens sometimes. They had an ugly win last year against North Carolina, where people saw them and said, "Oh, they're terrible," and they barely escaped North Carolina, but they were still, in the championship game. So, I have a lot of faith in Clemson.
So, Mel, what are your thoughts about that game there? Clemson nearly beating Boston College. Well, a lot of people, when I was at the FAU game last week, many of us were really pulling hard for Boston College to actually win this football game. And they had it under control for a while until they came back.
Well, they did. Clemson made some mistakes early, but, I'll take an ugly win over a pretty loss any day. A win is a win. It doesn't matter how you get it. And, the good thing about it is it's going to give this guy the quarterback that came in, I think he's a freshman. It's going to give him some real game time experience, real game time experience, not garbage time experience. So Dabo can feel pretty comfortable about what he has coming back next year if indeed Trevor Lawrence does decide to go ahead and put his name in the draft and leave. So, Clemson's a good football team, and they got good football players. And it was next man up. They stumbled a little bit out of the blocks, but they ended up doing what they were supposed to do, and that's come away with a win.
Well, I'll tell you what, they're going to have a tough task this week, too, because now Clemson's missing more starters against Notre Dame. Trevor Lawrence is still traveling with the team. I don't know if that's a good idea to be traveling with the team, but apparently he's cleared to do it. So, you can't only miss so many starters. Now you're playing against the Fighting Irish, by the way, who are the number 4 team in the country. Is this the week that the Clemson Tigers fall? We're going to go ahead and get to a few games now, but, it's not going to get any easier for Clemson, Mel.
No, but, I think Notre Dame is always overrated. I mean, they might be a pretty good little football team this year, but I think they're always overrated because they're Notre Dame. They're playing the ACC schedule this year because of the COVID.
Right.
So they're missing out on some of the, they're probably missing out on a couple of losses that they would have had from some other schools that were on their schedule. But I'm not that impressed with Notre Dame. Again, I think Clemson will win this, and they'll win it handily. They won't have a problem with Notre Dame, and Notre Dame will do what they do, and lose 1 or 2 games, lose games that they need to win in order to put themselves back on that big stage. Notre Dame's not Notre Dame back when I was a kid.
Oh yeah,
not that mystique anymore about Notre Dame. Back then, because Notre Dame was on TV all the time, a lot of kids wanted to go to TV, and they got the best kids to come to Notre Dame because kids want to play on national television. Well, now you can watch any game on national television.
That's true.
North Texas is on national television. It doesn't matter. You can go anywhere and get on national television. So Notre Dame doesn't have the same kind of appeal to young people as they used to, and it'll show this weekend.
Yeah, Lou Holtz is not walking through that door, Irish fans. Brian Kelly and Lou Holtz, to me, really don't belong in the same sentence, do they, Rick Curti?
No, I like Brian Kelly, but I agree with Mel. They're very overrated. Every time we talk about Notre Dame, and I mean, they got blown out the last time they were in the championship game. They got blown out by Clemson. And I have a friend that's a Notre Dame fan and wasn't a fan. I got invited to his house to go see the game, and it wasn't pretty. I think they scored like 3 points. They were just, I mean, they're a really good team, but when they played like an Alabama or a Clemson, they absolutely fall apart. They look terrible. And so I have Clemson. It's going to be probably another ugly win, but I like Clemson a lot. I think they're just a better team. And I agree. Notre Dame is very overrated. And I mean, you have places like Florida and California. I mean, who wants to, go to cold, wintry, snowy Indiana? That mystique is gone. And you're right. Lou Holtz ain't coming back.
Yeah, now you obviously you're not drinking the Tennessee Volunteers Kool-Aid, are you, Mr. Curti?
No, they've been so incredibly overrated for the past 6 or 7 years. Fulmer and Peyton Manning are now walking into the doors, and I'm not a big fan of their head coach right there. I don't. Again, the Nick Saban Kool-Aid. If someone worked with Nick Saban or Belichick, they're great. Well, Jeremy Pruitt is not great. He's overrated. Tennessee is overrated. They lost to Kentucky, and I really don't have any sympathy for them. I'm still kind of upset the way they treated Greg Schiano when they ran him out of town and called him a pedophile and a child molester when it wasn't even true. That could have hurt his career, and he's doing great things at Rutgers. Rutgers looks much, much more improved. So I'm a big Greg Schiano fan, and the way they handled that and the way they treated him was just horrible.
Yeah.
And it was sad when the AD backed the students up, and then they get Jeremy Pruitt, who's an unproven coach. And so to me, Tennessee is getting everything they deserve.
Yeah, you know what? I'm glad you brought up Greg Schiano, Mel. I think we can both appreciate that. He did get a raw deal with Tennessee, and I think he could have done a heck of a job with the Volunteers, Mel.
Yeah, I mean, he get much better talent there than he was getting at Rutgers, and you see what he did at Rutgers for the time that he was there. Now, Rutgers is in a different conference now than what they were when he left. So the competition is a lot stiffer now, playing in the Big Ten versus what they were playing in before. I forgot what conference they were playing in before, but ACC, I believe it was. So it's a lot more competitive than the conferences. But I like him as a coach. Sometimes some coaches are just meant to be college coaches. I think both Rutgers and Greg Schiano are both lucky that position became available again, and he can come back there and resurrect that program and probably retire there. Average 8 wins a year. I don't know what Rutgers think they should be getting, but I mean, if we can do 8, 10, every now and then, maybe get 12 wins. I mean, that's enough to get a statue.
That's true. You know what, Mel? I'm glad you brought that up. If the standard for Greg Schiano with Rutgers is called relevance. If you can make that program relevant, guess what? That is definitely statue territory. That's for sure.
Absolutely. So that bring him back to relevance, because since he left, they haven't done anything.
That's true.
While he was there, they were very competitive. They're going to bowl games, big time bowl games too, and playing some good football. I mean, that's how he got the job with Tampa Bay.
Right. I believe they were at the Big East, if I remember right, Mel.
They were in the Big East right before the Big East disbanded. Right.
Right. Yeah, they were. But and then of course landing with Ohio State, Urban Meyer. And you guys are nailing this one here. You really both are. He did a really, really good job with Ohio State. You know what? Forget about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers situation. That situation was bad for a while. But the fact that he's with Rutgers, I think they can become relevant within 1 or 2 years anyways. I really like everything that Schiano's going to do. Another thing that Rick Curti is not too happy about is Dan Mullen. Why don't you give us your rant about Dan Mullen?
Dan Mullen's an idiot. I mean, look at that fight that happened, and they had to hold him back. I mean, he wanted to go fist to fist with a coach there and with Missouri, and And that was just an embarrassment. It was an embarrassment on most parts, but mostly it was an embarrassment on Florida. And I like Florida. I like Dan Mullen a lot. He did a terrific job with Mississippi State, and he's a great coordinator. But I'm really upset with him the way he handled that. I mean, he was a complete out of control jerk, and they should fine him for that. That was just so uncalled for. And I think some of the players actually got suspended, but they're only suspended for the first half of a game, that's another one of my pet peeves. That's not a punishment at all. So I hopefully they'll do something with Mullen. I think he should get suspended.
Well, he got a $25,000.
It was that uncalled for.
He got a $25,000 fine. I wonder who's really paying it, him or the university.
Yeah, that's pocket change. I mean, that's pocket change for him.
The guy's making what, 6, 7, 8 million? I mean,
yeah, it's pocket change.
That's no money.
Well, come on, the booster will pay for that. They'll find a booster to write a check for $25,000. They don't care up in Florida.
I mean, he should be suspended for a couple of games of the way he acted. I mean, come on. So I'm not really happy with his performance there at all. I'm kind of down on him right there. But what he was just acting like a complete jerk.
Well, I mean, I think he had his players back. Obviously, there's a lot of emotions going on at that particular time. You take a shot on the guy's quarterback, and everybody knows that your fortunes ride with your quarterback. And if you have one that can, that's pretty decent, and you see him get hit like that and nothing happens, no flag is thrown or anything like that. And obviously the players, they were standing up for their quarterback, unlike, what the Cowboys did when Andy Dalton got hit.
Yeah, right.
Clock clean. But, so these guys were standing up for their quarterback, and they got in there. Yeah, it got a little ugly. There's a lot of folks in there and a lot of pushing and shoving. There's a lot of testosterone in there. And Mullins, rightfully so, he was backing his players, and he was a little excited too. He was a little jacked up, and I don't know if he wanted to go toe-to-toe with the other coach, but, they were holding him back for a little while. I think he just wanted to kind of talk and, try to talk about the situation.
Maybe.
They didn't really like that, and he's probably coached you guys up a little bit better. And he went to the locker room. But I'd much rather have a coach like that than a coach that just would run into the locker room. Somebody like Adam Gase. I mean, I don't see Adam Gase doing anything like that. So I'd much rather have a guy like that than what I perceive Adam Gase would he would do.
Well, let me tell you what. Curti's a baseball guy, for crying out loud. How many times have you seen a manager get thrown out deliberately, or a coach, just to motivate his players? So I have a feeling that Mullen was probably doing the same thing a little bit, where I'll take a little bit of a hit here as long as I get the rest. And let me tell you, if that's what his idea was, I thought they responded pretty well. All right, so since this is election week, I have to throw this out there. Former college football coach Tommy Tuberville will be the new U.S. Senator in the state of Alabama. He spent 10 years at Auburn. It was 85 wins, 40 losses with 8 bowl appearances. How much success you have in football in Alabama, and you can earn yourself a trip to Washington, D.C. How about drinking the old politics Kool-Aid when you're in the state of Alabama? My goodness, Tommy Tuberville. Now you get to go ahead and pass legislature, even though you were calling plays. Well, Mel, what do you think of that?
Obviously, they don't have very many smart people in Alabama, I guess. That would be what I'd have to say about that. Last I checked, Tommy Tuberville got fired from coaching. So
well, his last stop was Cincinnati, for whatever it's worth. So, but I like that. So you don't think there's many smart people in Alabama?
Right? He got fired from Auburn, right?
Yeah, he was with Auburn.
Right.
Yeah, he got fired from there. So.
Yeah, I forgot he went to Cincinnati. He didn't do nothing there, and I think he quit on the team at the last minute. I think he just resigned and walked away.
I don't know why. I mean, he's taking a pay cut to do it. I mean, they get paid what, a couple $100,000. You get free health care. Maybe he needs some health care. I don't know.
Yeah, free vacations.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why you'd want that job.
Well, it's not uncommon for former football people to land in office. Jack Kemp was obviously a good one.
He was a politician, though.
Yeah,
Jack Kemp was a politician.
Steve Largent was into him. Now, I'm not putting Tommy Tuberville into that category, but I feel since
J.C. Watts was a politician. I mean, a lot of those guys were politicians. I think Tommy Tuberville just got bored, I guess.
Steve Largent I think he was a senator or a congressman in Oklahoma.
there's been quite a few. Heath Schuler. There's been quite a few of them.
Yeah, but obviously Mel Farr JR. here isn't drinking the Alabama Kool-Aid, is he?
I'm not either. It's ridiculous. It's
He's a
Alabama for
challenger.
one thing.
Yeah,
It's a
I mean,
very red state, and he was going up against a guy who was very liberal. You know he was going to win.
he's a Democrat.
That was a no-brainer.
Yeah, he was a Democrat. It didn't matter who they put there. I mean,
Yeah, it's so red there. They could have put Ted Bundy up there, and he probably would have won. Seriously, it's just a very red state. He's very popular there. I don't know why, because he was a terrible coach. He was an okay coach, but he wasn't like you know Osborne or Spurrier.
Yeah, but if you're going to get the Auburn crowd voting for you, at least that's probably a good portion of the. If it isn't with the Crimson Tide people, the Auburn loyalty will get him a trip to Washington, D.C. Alabama's an interesting breed. We all know that. The state of Alabama. Okay, I get that. So, but hey, you know what? If Tommy Tuberville indeed did get bored, well, things ought to get very interesting in Washington, D.C. And by no means am I comparing him to some of the other politicians, because Jack Kemp was as good as they would get. Steve Largent was really as good as they get. But we'll see what happens with Tommy Tuberville.
He can't be any worse than any of the other crooks up there. Got individuals up there. You don't. You're a politician. All you have to do is not be able to tell the truth, and you're a good politician.
He could say he was a successful college coach and get away with it. He's not going to tell people I got fired from Auburn and I ditched on Cincinnati and all that stuff. And when I heard he was running, and I was just like, really? I'm like, well, he's probably going to win because it's a very, very red Republican state, and he's running against a very liberal Democrat. And even Democrats said we're not going to win that. We're just not going to win. So it's unfortunate. Doug Jones is a good guy, but unfortunately he's in a very bad state.
And the president endorsed him because that was Jeff Sessions' old seat. And Jeff Sessions, he did try to get it. Yeah, I think he did.
Yeah, he lost. He lost in the primary.
He lost in the primary to Tuberville. But I don't know how that seat ended up in a Democrat hand anyway. I don't know. I had to do some research on it.
It was that Roy Moore guy, that Judge Roy Moore, and allegedly he was dating like 12-year-old girls, and Doug Jones was running, and apparently he was one of the prosecutors that sent one of the Klansmen in the church bombings to prison. And because Roy Moore was such a despicable human being, he won. Doug Jones won. And but he barely won. But they painted Roy Moore as this pedophile who dates 13-year-old girls, and so I guess Alabama said, well, I guess we'll go for the Democrat.
Wow.
Pretty much.
It got to be that bad, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. And he barely won too, which is scary.
Well, that's our election insight here for 2020. And as of this moment, we still don't have a new president because of all these stuff going on. So by the time we go on here
next, on TV talking too, and I missed it. I was trying to listen to it a little bit. He's saying he got robbed or whatever. He's being cheated. So we'll see here.
Well, by the time we do this broadcast next Thursday, hopefully we'll have a president by then.
Hopefully so.
Even though your state seems to be running behind Mr. Farr, okay, Georgia still hasn't figured out what's on their mind. All right, well,
they're still counting votes. They're counting votes.
I know, that's what I mean.
Counting votes.
Yeah,
North Carolina too. They still counting votes here too.
Yeah. Florida, they're counting votes. You guys are counting votes, but he won that state pretty handily. So right now, the absentee ballot, or the mail-in ballots, or the absentee ballots are coming in, and they're predominantly Democratic, and that lead is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. I think it was down to like 7,800 on my way home. It was down to like 7,800.
Oh, was it? Okay, I haven't looked lately. I've been doing some work on the broadcast. All right, well, we'll get off the politics thing for a little bit, even though I enjoyed the candor between the two of you pertaining to Tommy Tuberville. I might actually go ahead and mention that when I promote this broadcast of great candor by Tommy Tuberville, and we'll see where it goes. So with that said, we'll go from Tommy Tuberville to Big Noon Kickoff Crew is out due to COVID-19 protocols. No Rob Stone, Brady Quinn, Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, and Urban Meyer. The Fox Boys won't be there in accordance to CDC guidance. with the LA County Department of Public Health Safety Guidelines. Now, instead, that 2-hour broadcast ahead of the USC and Arizona State, there's going to be a 1-hour pregame featuring Terry Bradshaw, Howie Long, Emmanuel H.O., and host Carissa Thompson. So, again, since we're talking college football, all right, we know COVID is going to be the predominant talk. So I'll tell you, when COVID-19 starts hitting the pregame show, this is interesting.
It's getting a lot worse. That's the problem. It's surging like crazy.
Who tested positive?
Well, no, we're talking about that the regular Fox crew won't be there, and they have a substitute crew. We're going to go from 2 hours down to 1 hour, and they're talking about the protocols that even hit the announcers.
Oh, okay. So, but none of them have tested positive.
No. There's according to the LA County, according to LA Department of Public Health Safety Guidelines, CDC guidance, they've decided to go with a four-person crew instead of the regular, because everything's being out in LA. So they have their rules out in LA. You ought to know, Mel. I mean, you've played college ball in LA, and you know the Los Angeles area pretty well. So they're talking about the Department of Health Safety Guidelines. So what's your take about the Department of Public Health Safety Guidelines in LA County?
But yeah, I mean, they had to do something in LA just for the Pac-10 or the Pac-12 to be able to play football.
Right.
Because you have those schools that are in California. You have a number of schools that are in California, and then obviously you have 2 schools down there in Southern California. So they had to get a special permission to be able to practice, if I'm not mistaken, so they could even restart the season. So it doesn't surprise me that that they're coming up with all these protocols. But you look at what's going on around the country. I think, even though we've been talking about the election, I think we had a record high as far as COVID cases today. And we're in November now, and we're surpassing the levels that we dealt with, whether it was late spring, early summer, whatever the case may have been. So, again, when we first started talking about this, I thought for certain by now we'd have our arms around this thing here and we'd be able to deal with it. And I think I told you my youngest daughter, she just contracted it on Monday. So, it's just, when you're out and about, you're going to more than likely, you're going to get it. If you're just out and about trying to go about things, trying to be normal, you're going to get it. A guy like me, I'm a hermit. I stay in the house. I go to the store. I'm in and out. I have my mask on. I got all kind of sanitizer all, everywhere. I got Lysol sprayed, I spray everything down. I don't want to get it because I don't want to see how I'm going to react to it. Because there's a gamut. Some people get nothing. Other people, they die from this thing here. I don't want to figure out. I don't want to see how I'm going to respond to it. I just would rather not get it. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm just sticking and moving. Just keep sticking and moving. Just keep bobbing and weaving and just trying to, keep dodging this thing.
Yeah, the amazing part about it is I have covering my third Florida Atlantic game against Western Kentucky tomorrow, and again they have strict protocols at FAU Stadium, and we have our distancing in the box. I guess the biggest challenge for me next week will be when I go to Sebring International Raceway up in Sebring, but I'll have the mask and I wear a pair of gloves, and I'll be further away from people. There'll be some fans, but I'm in the press area, so it's my expectation I'll be around very few people. I'm only there just to pretty much do what I've got to do to network a little bit, and do what I've got to do, but there'll be very minimal contact. I'll have to make sure of that, because now I'm obviously planning to go back to Detroit to see my terminally ill mother in a couple of weeks, but so I know I've got to be very conscious of everything that's going on. But you're right, Rick. I mean, let's face the reality. When it starts to hit the pregame show, then we got a situation.
Yeah, I wish I could say I'm shocked and surprised, but our leadership has totally failed us. People are not taking this seriously. I still see a lot of people without masks in my area. I know younger people, are out partying, or even people my age are out doing things that they shouldn't be doing. And it's just that, I know people are tired of it and it's an inconvenience, but I mean, it's about saving lives and about saving your own life. And this is something that can't be, we can't have it to be a joke. And I know doctors have been saying this for many, many months, that the winter time is going to hit us very, very hard. So, and I've been listening to them. So this is not a surprise to me. It's unfortunate. And it's been surging like crazy. It's surging everywhere right now. I think they had the highest cases today of COVID-19. And we have to get better at this. And maybe with our elections, maybe that will change. We don't know, but we'll see. But it's getting pretty scary, and people just need to take this seriously and just wear a mask, for Pete's sakes. It's not that hard.
Okay. All right. Now that we've talked about COVID-19, let's talk about some football games. I'm sure both of you guys would like to do that. So we'll talk about a couple games tomorrow night. Miami Hurricanes are at North Carolina State. Hurricanes going to the game 11th in the country against North Carolina State. What are your thoughts? You want to make any predictions on for college games? I think the one thing that's tough to do with college games nowadays is there's such a differentiation of what the records are and how many games you played in. So it's harder and harder to make predictions. So who wants to take a crack at the Hurricanes and the Wolfpack?
I'll do it. I live in North Carolina, but I'm sorry. I love Raleigh, but I'm going to go with Miami on this. NC State is just and they're an okay team. They've been okay for a while, but I like Miami, what they've been doing. They look really good. I'm just not sold on the Wolfpack. Great school, great city, but they're not going to win. And so I have Miami winning this, probably maybe 24-13, something like that.
You think, Mel?
Yeah, I haven't watched the Wolfpack play this year. I know they're trying to build a program up there. They're really trying to build a program. But Miami, they have the quarterback to transfer, playing pretty well. I like the Hurricanes in this one here too, and they're probably looking at about 42-28, something like that.
Yeah, I see Miami winning by double digits too. So we'll make it unanimous. All right, BYU number 9th in the country against Boise State. Number 21, you got the blue football field up in Boise. So it should be a pretty interesting matchup the way it looks like on paper, Rick.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about people not walking in the door. Chris Peterson is not walking in the door right now with Boise State. They were an amazing team under them, and I love that blue turf. And, they're not the big powerhouse as they were, but they're still a really good team. But I'm going to go with the upset in here. I'm going to go with Boise State over BYU. I think that home field advantage for Boise State is really good. I have Boise winning that one in an upset.
Okay, Mel.
Yeah, I haven't seen Boise play this year. Watched BYU play a little bit, a few times this year. They got a quarterback there that a lot of people are pretty high on. So not having seen Boise play, I'd have to go with BYU myself, and I figure they'll squeak one out. Probably win by, I'd say 24-17.
You know what? I'll go ahead and bet on the blue turf, and just for the heck of it, go with the Broncos of Boise State, even though I probably don't know what I'm talking about anyway, so it doesn't matter. All right. Let's talk about Saturday, Michigan and Indiana. Bobby Knight and Johnny Orr aren't walking through the door, but this is one of those rare games where Michigan is number 23rd in the country. Indiana is number 13. So the Hoosiers have an upstart program over there in Bloomington, and this could be a very competitive football game.
Yeah, I'm another team I've been disappointed was Michigan. I really thought when Harbaugh went there, they would really at least be in the playoffs or something. They have just been they've been not a good team. They beat up on the really bad teams, but when they play the good teams, they just don't look good. This is a must win for Michigan, and Indiana has improved a lot, and it is in Indiana, but I'm gonna go with Michigan on this one. It's gonna be an ugly game. I have it like 27, maybe 21, something like that. It's not gonna be a pretty win, but this is a must win for Michigan.
No.
Yeah, I think Michigan, coming off that loss to the little brother, I'm sure they're not going to be real happy right now. I'm sure they're chomping at the bit rather to get back out there and get that bad taste out of their mouth. So I think that I can't imagine Michigan losing to Indiana. I don't know when the last time that's happened, but
right.
That's kind of like when I was at UCLA, losing to Cal or something like that. That just you didn't even think about it. That was your homecoming game. You're padding your stats that game. You're only playing and I'm playing a half. So I can't imagine these guys not thinking similar And, looking at this game as a pad their stats game, third string guys should be getting in there. They should be excited because they're going to get an opportunity to play, and not just play, they're going to play for a while. So I got Michigan winning big. I mean, because they should be upset with that performance that they put on film last week. They should be very upset and trying to redeem themselves.
Yeah, I like Michigan 27-17. Here's the thing. You're right. Jim Harbaugh, to me, they lost 27-24 at home to Michigan State. But my gut feeling is at some point within the next couple of years, Jim Harbaugh is going to make his way back to the NFL. I really do. It's a gut feeling that I have. I think he's got 2 years left on his contract anyway, so don't be surprised to see him coaching on Sundays. That's just a feeling. All right, we'll stay in your conference, Mel. Arizona State, Herman Edwards against USC, the number 20th team in the country. At least that's one game that figures to be played out west. Any take on that against your old rival?
Yeah, I'm always going to root for UCLA and any team that's playing against USC. So Arizona State, I'm with them. And plus, I like Herm too. I like Herm.
Right.
I like what he's doing with the program out there. And so, and then of course, I don't like SC. So yeah, I'm taking Arizona State to win this one.
Yeah, Marvin Lewis is actually with Herman Edwards out there as well. So,
Right.
I'm going to go ahead with the Arizona State as well. Go ahead, Rick.
I'm going with Arizona State as well. I love Herm Edwards. I love what they're doing out there. And, I like what's going on over there in Southern in California. And, I'm not really impressed with what's going on over there. So, but I love what Herm is doing. And I miss him on ESPN, and I know he's doing a great job as a head coach. So I'm rooting for him.
Yeah, well, here's a game that neither of you probably know anything about, but we're going to put it out there anyways, and I'm wearing the hat, okay? Western Kentucky's 2-5 against Florida Atlantic 2-1. You talk about a team that's played 7 games versus 3. And I had this situation last week with Texas San Antonio. They were 4-3, and FAU was 1-1. So you talk about what COVID's done in terms of all the rescheduling. In fact, FAU had a game that's being rescheduled against Southern Miss later in the year. I think in sometime in December. So let's take a shot at it anyways. Western Kentucky 2-5 against FAU. Either you two want to take a stab at this one?
But that's the Hilltoppers, right? That's the old Fighting Bobby Petrinos.
There you go. Look at Bell. He's on a roll tonight.
I remember them, yeah.
They played well, and Bobby Petrino parlayed that back into a job back at Louisville. I mean, he's got Louisville, but now he got Lamar Jackson, and everything was great. Then Lamar left, and everything wasn't so great. So,
well, Lamar Jackson, I believe, was then Louisville, but you're right. But yeah, I believe he
won the Heisman.
Back to Western Kentucky. Good point. And then Willie Taggart was there, but no, Willie Taggart actually is facing his old team now that you brought it up. So, all right, go ahead, Breck.
I'm gonna go with FAU.
Okay, good man. Toting the company line here. I'm going with FAU too.
I am too. Bobby Petrino walking back in Western Kentucky. So, I'm going with FAU as well.
I like working with Willie Taggart. He's a cool cat. I'm actually going to be wearing my orange long sleeve shirt. Or maybe I'll be a little superstitious and let Willie know. You know what? You want an Halloween?
I think Willie Taggart was over his head at Oregon and at Florida State.
Yeah, he was, and yet he turned my alma mater, University of South Florida, around. So, and you know what? It doesn't hurt that FAU got him cheap, knowing that Florida State paying most of his salary. But Willie Taggart can recruit in the state of Florida. He really can. So, and I like working with him. He seems like a really super nice guy, and he's had to deal with a lot his first year. Then again, everybody coaching in college has to deal with the COVID-19. One minute you're on, one that you're off. The one thing I should point out about FAU, though, that people need to understand, their defensive coordinator is Jim Leavitt, who actually founded the University of South Florida program. And I'll tell you what, the defensive job he did on Texas San Antonio last week was unbelievable. So I look for FAU's defense to look pretty good in this football game. And Jim Leavitt and Willie Taggart make a formidable, pretty good tandem. So I'm FAU all the way. In fact, I think their offense still will take a little while, but I'll give FAU a 27-14 win. All right, well, Clemson, Notre Dame, we talked about it before. Now we're going to make predictions on this one.
I'll go. I love Clemson in this. Notre Dame is incredibly overrated. They've been overrated for quite some time. They might be good, against the teams they should beat, but when they play Alabama or Clemson, they always get crushed. And I don't care if Trevor Lawrence is not there or whoever's not there. I have Clemson winning. It's going to be an ugly win because they're missing a lot of players because of COVID and they're missing their starting quarterback. But I have it it'll probably be like something like 27-24. I think it's going to be close because Clemson don't have their star players, but Notre Dame is incredibly overrated, and they have been for quite some time.
Mel,
Where are they playing?
they're playing at Notre Dame.
Yeah, something about that touchdown Jesus, man. Something about being and sitting down and seeing that, seeing touchdown Jesus up above the stadium. It's tough. But I still, they came down here. Georgia went up there, dealt with touchdown Jesus. They beat them. Last year, Notre Dame was ranked, and they came down here and faced Georgia, and Georgia ran them out of Georgia. They couldn't wait to get back up there to South Bend. Notre Dame, the problem that they have is, even though Clemson has some guys that are going to be out, they have a lot of depth. I mean, Dabo can recruit. Look at the guy who's playing quarterback. He's 6'5", 250 pounds or whatever.
Right,
I mean,
right.
This kid's just a freshman, and ATN is still he can still run the ball. The problem is Notre Dame doesn't match up. Notre Dame is built like the old Big Ten schools were built, 3 yards of a cloud of dust rather. Well, nobody plays that kind of football anymore. And when I say that is they're not very fast. They may have a couple of guys that can run,
Right.
but overall they have very poor team speed. And that's where these Southern teams get Notre Dame. That's where they have the problem. That's why they're going to have a problem against Clemson this week. Even though they're playing up there in South Bend, they're still going to have a problem because they can't match that speed. They just can't match that speed. So I still see, I see Clemson winning this, not having a problem with them because I just don't think Notre Dame's that good.
So give me a score. You don't think it's a problem?
Oh, they're going to be 35-17, something like that. They're going to hit them in the mouth. Yeah, they're going to hit them in the mouth.
I'll go 33-26. But you know what? I do agree with you, though, that the Southern schools have much better athletes than they do with Notre Dame, for sure. And I think that Notre Dame really should be in a conference like the Big Ten, not the ACC because of their style of play. But, yeah, there's no question that Southeastern Conference at ACC, that you have a much better group of athletes there for sure. All right, well, Rick Curti ought to like this one. Number 8, Florida Gators against Georgia. Number 5 over in Jacksonville, the border rivalry here. I know, there won't be any fans. They'll still the same field. So this should be a pretty interesting football game. Mel, you're in Georgia. What are they thinking up there about this football game?
Well, I haven't been paying attention. I've been looking at this election, but this is always a big game, big rivalry game. I actually like, I'm not real high on Georgia, to be honest with you. I like Florida in this game, to be honest. I like, what Dan Mullins is doing down there. Again, Georgia, they want to run the football and they want to play defense. If you get ahead of Georgia, if you get out in front of Georgia, it's very difficult for Georgia to play that kind of game because they really want to run the football. What they want to do is they want to get a lead, they want to protect that lead, or they just want to have a low scoring affair. I don't think they're going to have that luxury at Georgia. With Florida, because Florida has some good athletes. They got some good people. They got some good, some guys that can run. So I'm looking at Florida to win this game 28-21.
Rick?
Yeah, I call this the overrated bowl because these two teams are both incredibly overrated. I'm not a fan of Georgia at all with Kirby, not so smart, and with Dan Mullins' behavioral anger issues. I think he needs a timeout. So, but I'm going to go with Georgia on this, like 27, like 27-24. It's just, like I said, they're both overrated. And if they are ever get in the playoffs, they're going to get shellacked, both of them. So, I'm going to go with Georgia on this.
I'll go with Gators 24-14. I figure that since you set me up with Dan Mullen getting angry, I think his team rallies behind him. So I'm going to take the Dan Mullen potion and let you have it, Curti.
I like passion. I'm a fan of passion, but he was out of control. He really was. They had to hold him back.
Well, see if he stays under control to win 24-14, Curti, since you gave me.
Then let him go. I guarantee you he wouldn't have done nothing.
That's true. I agree. That's okay. All right. Well, I got a couple matchups that you normally would see on the basketball court, but we're going to have some fun with it. North Carolina against Duke. Both are unranked. Anybody want to venture a guess with these two? I didn't even write the records down. I didn't even care.
North Carolina. I think North Carolina won that game. They had some high expectations this year coming into the season.
Yeah.
Lost a couple games and, fall out of favor real quick. But, I like Mac Brown. This is his second year in the program. I think he's trying to build something up there again, build something special. And, Duke is Duke. I mean, that's one of them games that if you're North Carolina football, you're not supposed to lose to Duke football. Now, basketball might be different, but, you're not supposed to lose to Duke, period. So I'm taking North Carolina. I think North Carolina will win 35-28. Might be a high-scoring affair, but I think North Carolina will come out on top.
Yeah, I like Mac Brown. I'll tell you what, I'm glad that he made the return and is back in North Carolina. He should have probably never left in the first place, although winning a national championship in Texas isn't the worst thing that could ever happen to him because now he's more revered.
Well, he made big money. I mean, they paid him big money to leave.
Oh, yeah, they did. So, but I think he earned enough money where now he can definitely be comfortable in Chapel Hill. So, Rick?
Well, this is my neck of the woods, and I think the problem with North Carolina, they were ranked way too high. They were not even close to being a number 5 team. So when they lost to Florida State, everyone was like, what a massive upset. I'm like, it's not because North Carolina, for some bizarre reason, was ranked way so high. I mean, they're not a top 5 team or not even a top 10 team, in my opinion. And Duke, even though Cutcliffe has done an amazing job there, they were really super bad. They averaged like 2 or 3 wins, and it's a college basketball town. And even though Duke has improved, I'm going with the Tar Heels in this one. I'm happy Mac Brown's back. He's just a very beloved human being here and took over that another loudmouth in fedora. Glad he's gone. But I have North Carolina winning this like 35-21. I don't think it'll be that close.
Yeah, I like the Tar Heels winning 37-10. I really think it. But you know what? David Cutcliffe is a good quarterbacks coach, and he's a good offensive mind, and Mac Brown. So you know what? He has done a really good job for Duke for sure. Yeah. And the last one here, and I want to pay, first of all, I want to pay send our condolences to Billy Tubbs' family. The former Oklahoma Sooners coach passed away earlier in the week. So rest in peace, Billy Tubbs. Why am I mentioning that? Because we got Kansas against Oklahoma. Okay. Les Miles against, was it Riley?
Lincoln Riley.
Lincoln Riley. I knew there was a Riley somewhere. So I'll give you my prediction here. Les Miles should have stayed retired. I'll say Oklahoma 51, Kansas 3.
Wow. I love what Les Miles is doing in Kansas, but at the same time, they're Kansas. It's not, I mean, if he takes them to a bowl game or something like that, they should make a statue for him and call him the Kansas Miles or Kansas Les Miles. But, Oklahoma, they've been a massive disappointment. But, yeah, they're going to come out here, and I think they're going to win like 46-10. They're Kansas is just, I mean, they're improved, but, I mean, they're not Clemson. So, but I have Oklahoma winning this in a rout.
Yeah, so my score's 51-3. Yours is high. All right, Mel, let's hear yours.
What's their record? You said they're improved. What's their record? Have they won a game yet?
I didn't even bother to look it up. Go ahead and look it up.
They won a game this year. I mean, every game
they won one.
Well, they improved last year. I mean, Kansas was terrible for a while, and they were better last year. Yeah, this year, but
guys,
like I said, they're Kansas.
It was a basketball matchup for crying out loud. My only trip to the Lloyd Noble Center was seeing Kansas against Oklahoma many years ago. That's the reason I brought the game up. Now, Bill Self was there. It might be 51-51 because that's when you had the basketball coach coming up with 51. 51-3 in favor of Oklahoma. I only brought it up because I'm satirizing this matchup because it's a basketball matchup on the football field, by the way.
Well, I feel bad for the Mad Hatter, though. I mean, it's a tough job he took.
Yeah. Tennessee should have gotten him. Tennessee should have hired Les Miles. That would have been an excellent
hire. He couldn't get a job anywhere anyway. See, if he was smart, he would have gone up to Ann Arbor when he had a chance of taking the Michigan job.
He was still at LSU at that time, though, wasn't he?
Yeah, but he interviewed for the job.
To go to Michigan?
Wait a minute. Hold it, Mel. He interviewed for that job and decided to stay at LSU. I'm with you, but, let's face the reality.
I mean, he left what Nick Saban left for him at LSU, right?
Right.
Why would you leave that?
Why? Because he probably the average. What's the average shelf life for a coach out at LSU?
Does I mean I understand it's tough, but man, it's tougher in Michigan than it is at LSU.
Yeah, well, but you know what? The guy learned
They
under Bo
fired him out of LSU,
Schembechler.
though.
They might have tolerated him longer at Michigan, though, Mel, because he does come from the Bo Schembechler
I
Kool-Aid. That's the only reason I'm mentioning it. So
He's
he
been
should have gone
linked
to
to that
Michigan when
job
he had a chance.
he had been linked to that job a number of times,
Right,
didn't take the job.
right.
And because LSU is a better job than Michigan.
And meanwhile, when he got fired, he couldn't get a job until Kansas came knocking on his door
I
after
mean,
several
he
interviews
had to pick
later.
the right job. I mean, I don't know why he took the Kansas job. Maybe he just wanted, he thought he could do something in the program, but it wasn't like he had to go out there and work. I mean, Les Miles, I mean, he won a national championship and he gets an opportunity to pick and choose.
Yeah.
So he didn't have to go out there
Tell
and
me,
just
pick
the
and
first
choose
job.
that job. Let me, why he didn't get hired for a lot of these other jobs. He was too darn old.
Well, they think he's too conservative. His offense.
It is.
Conservative.
He has no offense. It's all he's too conservative with his offense, and it's all defense for him. And Nick Saban has adapted to it with offense and defense.
That don't work
mostly
in the Big 12.
defensively, and the Mad Hatter hasn't done that. It's all defense and very little offense. And two, the man likes to eat grass.
We'll be running him out of there pretty soon too.
Yeah, but well, that's true. But let me tell you what, Les Miles, if he would have gone to Michigan, okay, remember, once upon a time, okay, you have Rob Lytle, Harlan Huckleby, and I can tell you how many other fine running backs that ended up coming out of Michigan. You can get away with conservative play at Michigan. You weren't going to get away with it down in the Southeastern Conference. And yes, he does have a national championship there. But, you're right, though, Mel. And Orgeron, I wonder what his shelf will be like if he has a bunch of bad years in a row either.
Yeah,
he's gone.
3 years he'll be gone. He'll be what's that head coach of Auburn when he won the championship and then they fired him 3 years later?
Oh, guys! Oh, yeah, I know you're talking about it. He's terrible too.
Chiswick, I think.
Yeah, Gene Chiswick.
Yeah, Gene Chiswick. He's the next Gene Chiswick.
Chiswick.
Yeah.
Oh, whatever. Google it, Curti. That's all right. You'll retweet Gene Chiswick. Don't worry about it. But anyways, yeah. But when it comes to Les Miles, he should have taken.
Gene Chiswick had Cam Newton, so he got lucky. He had Cam
exactly.
Newton.
That's true. Yeah, but you know what? But it's good to be able to satirize a football game like this, Oklahoma and Kansas, when it's really a basketball matchup anyways, Amy. But so what? When you think of why would I pick such a game like this? Because how many great games have been canceled, So I might as well just pick this one.
I love seeing the Mad Hatter back. He just chose the wrong school. He should have went to Tennessee. Tennessee would have been the perfect school to go to, but they went with Pruitt because of the Nick Saban Kool-Aid. So, but I think Les Miles should have gone to Tennessee.
I'm rooting for him, man. Trust me, I'm rooting for him. I like the Mad Hatter. I really do.
Well, I hope he does well. And I agree with you, Mel. If he has any kind of success over at Kansas, he'll get a statue in front of that football stadium. And for whatever it's worth, I actually visited that school and the campus. It's a beautiful campus over out in Lawrence. So
right there next to Gale Sayers, huh?
Yeah, there you go. Atta boy. Now, I'd ask you to pick these other football games, but there's only one little problem about it. They're not playing them. So, you know what? I'm going to mention them anyways, all right? Tulsa, Navy, Purdue, Wisconsin, Washington, California, Air Force and Army. And the only reason they're not playing the Air Force and the Army one is because the spike at Air Force postponed. So I'm bringing a few of these service academies in here because in honor of Veterans Day next week, I thought I'd throw these schools out here. So Tulsa's not going to be playing Navy, although Purdue and Wisconsin, you feel bad for what's going on up in Wisconsin with the outbreak there.
They've been playing, what, 3 weeks?
Yeah. The next time Wisconsin could play might be Michigan if they don't get knocked out of that one either. Then you got Washington, California. Welcome back, Pac-12. Not so fast, my friend. Washington not playing in California and Air Force Army. So I won't ask you to predict these games, guys, because you can't. All right, so that's what I thought I'd throw out there. So in honor of Veterans Day, okay, Tulsa and Navy aren't playing, Air Force and Army aren't playing, and that's that. So with that said, okay, let's go ahead and wrap up this broadcast. And Mel, let everybody know how they can go ahead and get a hold of you.
Yeah, all social media sites at Mel Farr Jr. That's LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can catch me at Mel Farr Jr. My email is melfarjr. That's MELFARRJR @gmail.com. And you can follow what we do here in Georgia and also in Michigan for the youth at melfar.org.
Go ahead, Rick.
You can contact me on my website at www.charlottebats.com. My email address is cltbatsbaseball@gmail.com. I'm also on Facebook at Charlotte MLB and Charlotte Bats Baseball. I'm also on Instagram at Charlotte Bats. I'm also on Twitter at Charlotte Bats Baseball. And I'm also on LinkedIn under Rick Curti, Curti, and you can contact me on any of those social media websites.
And I should point out, Rick Curti does a marvelous job helping us here at the South Florida Tribune, making sure all of our content gets tweeted out there on social media. We definitely thank him. He does a fine job sharing these broadcasts as well, all of the broadcasts, not only the ones that he's involved as well. So we appreciate what he does. In terms of us, you can follow us on Twitter at Tribune South. That's at Tribune South. Facebook and Instagram, follow us, South Florida Tribune. Our YouTube channel, please subscribe to South Florida Tribune. And I'll give you 6 good reasons why you should. Sports Exchange, No Limits, 108 Stitches Baseball Talk, Real and the Rare, Fantasy Football, South Florida Tribune Podcast, and 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. Rick Curti is a co-host of that broadcast as well with us. Our website is www.southfloridatribune.com. We have our contributors writers. We have our affiliates that write for us. We have the Motor City Monitor, and you can also find our broadcast on the WSAN drop down. So we have a great website there. We also have national news, weather, and sports on there as well. Our email address is southfloridatribune@gmail.com. And of course, you can locate myself, and Scott Morganroth, on LinkedIn. I'll be more than happy to connect with you there. If you want to hear the audio version of the broadcast, you can do so with Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. If you think I talk too fast, you're right. So I'll do it again. Give you an audio replay. Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. So meanwhile, I want to thank everybody for joining us on this edition of the Sports Exchange. Nice to be able to talk about the colleges. I know, Mel, you definitely feel passionate about the colleges. And I think for the rest of the football season, we're going to stay with the college theme for sure. And once again, Mel, you did a fine job last night with Steve Ballesteri and myself. As we talked about some old-time football. And we encourage everybody to go out there, listen to these broadcasts, share them with your friends. We work very, very hard to make sure you have the best entertainment possible. And then nice to be able to give you 4 football games you can't predict because they're not even being played. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But at least the one thing I guarantee, that for the 4 football games you didn't predict, you weren't going to get them wrong. You weren't going to get them right. So you're 4 for 4. So you couldn't screw that up even if we tried. So with that said, Rick Curti, why don't you go ahead and give the COVID information before we wrap up the broadcast. Go ahead.
Well, unfortunately, it's gotten a lot worse. We had the highest cases of COVID today, and maybe a change in leadership, things will improve. But guys, please wear a mask, wash your hands, social distance. Don't be stupid. Don't go to these parties. Don't go to crowded events. Don't go to like these pool parties. There's like hundreds of people there, and be around people who are not wearing masks and being careless. Just think of others. Wear masks. Like me, I just stay at home. I rent movies and I wear my mask wherever I go, and and just use some common sense.
Very good. Well said. And like I said, I'll be over in Florida in Boca Raton this weekend. FAU hosts Western Kentucky. I'll be in the press box. The FAU staff does a wonderful job over there. Justin Johnson, Jonathan Frazier, Katrina McCormack. They're great people. The way they take care of myself. Candy Ebling will be taking photos on the sideline, so we'll have coverage of the FAU Western Kentucky game. But meanwhile, Mel, I know we had you do double duty this week, and you were A1 in my book, as you always are. But we made the guy work twice this week. Rick Curti's used to working twice, but Mel Farr, you did a tremendous job both nights. We're so proud to have you as a part of our team.
I had to make up for last week.
Oh, that's okay. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, power outage. We understand.
You know what, though? Mel Farr has been there for us more times than not, so we're proud of everything that he does on the broadcast. So what can I tell you? We're very happy with the crew that we have here. I'm proud of every one of you. You do a great job. So meanwhile, folks, if you don't listen, I'll give you one reason why you should listen to this broadcast. Listen to Mel Farr's Tommy Tuberville comments, and that'll definitely get you laughing because he demonstrated some personality and some candor with that one. So, but meanwhile, on behalf of Mel Farr Jr. and Rick Curti, my name is Scott Morganroth, Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of the Sports Exchange, and we will catch you another time on the Sports Exchange. Have a good weekend, everybody. Go out there and be safe. God bless to all.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.